Vico, you want to start being a dungeon master this year? You don't even know where to start. Any ideas for engaging new players? Well, it's a good question. Sometimes it's as simple as thinking about, so like, I like to try to demystify being a dungeon master. It's not about the rules. It's not about having mastery of all Dungeons and Dragons lore. Most of it I don't know. Most of the rules I look up, uh, like the stuff that I haven't, I guess, internalized over 6 or 7 years of doing this. Really, I think dungeon masters are party planners. That's what we do. That's what designing D&D games is. We want to cultivate a certain type of experience, whatever that party is. Maybe it's maybe one of those parties is going to be more active than another one, in which case there's going to be a lot of stuff going on at the table. Other times maybe this one's more low key, more getting to know you type of party that we're planning, and that's going to be more role play focused. But whatever that is, the principle underlying all of it is all we can do is set the table effectively, whether it's virtual or in person. All we can do is kind of put everything in there and do our best to sort of nudge everybody into a positive. The players are going to probably bring more to the party most of the time than we are. So sometimes I'll think about what kind of game would I find really engaging? What kind of game would I find really fun? There's nothing wrong with playing and leaning into cliches and tropes. Start your party in a tavern. It's totally fine, but maybe something weird happens in this tavern, or there's some aspect of it that you've never experienced in a game before, but you think would be really fun. Feel free to get inspired, and sometimes it helps to. I sort of have interview sessions with my party ahead of time, like what are their favorite stories, movies, book series, like what inspires them to play D&D. Sometimes they're brand new to the game, which in which case things are sort of open-ended. Other times they bring maybe not baggage, but they bring a lot with them to the game, and it's good to be aware of that kind of stuff. I like questions. I like interesting questions and things to investigate where I don't necessarily always know where the story's going. And that doesn't mean twists necessarily. That just means that there's a sequence of events that happened and we haven't uncovered what they are. And once we do, that'll be very satisfying. Like that is how a lot of my sort of big ideas happen at the table. And sometimes it's a couple in a session, right? It's you go into a room, you see a scene, you figure out what it's all about, and by figuring it out, now you can continue forward. Sometimes it's just a room puzzle. Other times it's a big sweeping crazy puzzle that they've got to uncover like Indiana Jones and figure out this 1,000-year-old mystery. It really just depends. But all of it comes from me going like, okay, well, back to my party analogy, what kind of party do I want to hang out at? What kind of experiences do I want to have at the table that that I'm going to be excited to like tell people about and I'm going to be thinking about. And so sometimes that's like, well, boy, it would be really fun for me, like as a player, to be able to solve a really tricky puzzle that I don't have to solve. Like I would love to have an impact on the game in a way. I think it would be neat to solve something that didn't have to, we weren't stuck. It was not like anything couldn't happen until we solved this. But because I went out of my way and solved it, which feels like sort of Indiana Jones or sort of like archaeology type of thing. Because I did that, I changed the nature of the game and the world that we're in and opened up this new thing for us. I was like, that feels like a fun idea, so I put that in my game. Or, it's interesting to face these sort of moral dilemmas and figure out what the characters are going to do. So maybe there's 2 or 3 factions that all sort of disagree and the party sort of has to go one way or the other. I find that to be really interesting to talk about that stuff with other people and try to figure out what we can forge. Maybe there's a 4th way that the party can create or that I could be a part of creating. So I just think about those types of things, those types of situations. Obviously really interesting, combat scenarios can be fun. We've been playing The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. I just started The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time last night, and that game has so many inspiring combat encounters. Snipers' nests and multiple different factions in some cases are like where the odds are really stacked against you, or when you have the entire thing laid out and you get to choose how you want to approach it. And I think all of those are that's really fun inspiration for D&D also. Every campaign that I run, I do a prologue session before the campaign starts. I think it's a bit of a cheat as a DM to do this, but I think it works really well and it's fun for everybody. Figuring out all of the characters, and basically I in the process of figuring out all the characters, obviously we have like sort of a session 1 that's planned, out there some date in the future. And usually about a month prior to that, I'll start scheduling with the players to say, okay, each one of you, like, let's pick a one-on-one session time, right? Which sounds scary. But the idea is that this sort of prologue or sort of prequel session is going to set them up for that session 1. It's going to establish their character in the world. It's going to help them kind of figure themselves out, and it gives you a chance to really make some story beats that are just for that character. And again, that comes from, like, if I was playing a character, if I was in a game as a player, I would find that really interesting. Is there really a piece of this story thread that's just my characters, that if these 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or however many characters didn't come together at exactly this moment, what couldn't have happened? So I'll run 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or however many are necessary solo sessions with each character, with each player, and then kind of all of those go into that first session together and sort of explains how they all got there. Sometimes it brings them right up to that very moment where they all meet. Had one time that ended with all of the characters ending up in the Waterdeep or in a cemetery as they were watching these humanoid frogs rebury a grave. And so they were all basically witness to this sort of like strange crime in the middle of the night. And that first session picked up in the middle of that and them trying to sort out, who was responsible for all of that. That was a fun and ambitious idea for a beginning of a campaign. That was a lot. I don't know if that's helpful or not. But if that's where your thoughts are, Vico, like how to engage players, how to get started as a DM, and you want to talk about that stuff more, that's the kind of stuff that I love to talk about every day. Obviously, I could just wax on about it for a while. So hope you keep bringing your questions. Hopefully you get to be a DM this year. It's really fun. I like playing the game, but I really like being a dungeon master more, for sure. And Eli, that should be a short. I don't know if it's not short enough to be a short, maybe, but I could make it a long short. I could make it a medium.